Buongiorno, Vario Stick here. I'm just about to check the 4 major fluid levels on my car. It happens to be a Ford Focus C-Max, the 1.5 turbo diesel, but the same rules apply no matter what car you've got. The header tanks that we'll be looking at may be in a different position, but they should look exactly the same, and if in doubt, get that big fat owner's manual out of the glove compartment and it'll show you exactly what we're looking at. So join me today when we're doing the 4 fluid levels on our Ford Focus. So welcome to the 4 major fluid checks. I just thought I'd do this video because I know a lot of people, well, some people get confused with these different fluids, what they should be checking, what they should be using, how they should be doing it. Well, it's fairly straightforward. If in doubt, consult that owner's manual, and if that doesn't cover it, then go and see a proper qualified mechanic. As I say, with the Ford Focus, it's pretty straightforward where the wash wipe is. You can get a little additive for these wash wipes nowadays so they don't freeze up in the middle of winter when you're driving down the road and you want to do the old wash wipe of the windscreen and it just turns into ice as it hits the cold windscreen. So you can get additives. Go to your local motor factors or vehicle store, you know, Halfords, and you can buy them that will help prevent the thing freezing up. But when I check or fill up my wash wipe reservoir, I check the other 3 major fluids. The first one is this one, and that's the coolant level. You'll see from the one on the C-Max that there is definitely, I don't know if you see it with the camera there, but that's the maximum, and down there is a minimum level. And in your car, no matter what it is, it'll be exactly the same, a maximum and a minimum level. And what you need to do is to make sure that your fluid level, it's pink in a Ford. You use different levels so you can see it more easily, I guess, different colours. Make sure your header tank is topped up to the right levels. Before we do anything, just make sure 2 things, vitally important, that this car is not running when you're doing any of these checks. There's lots of bits whizzing around, belts and fans and all kinds of things. You don't want to get tangled up in that. And do it when a car is cold. I always do it in the morning before I go anywhere, and I don't burn my hands on any hot fluids or hot exhaust, etc. So do it first thing in the morning when it's nice and cold. So the fluid level for the coolant, as you can see, as I say there's a minimum and a maximum. Just crack this off the top. That's straightforward really. Only the Ford, there's quite a few threads on this, and you've got to keep turning it for a while, but eventually that comes off there. Just put that out of the way. It's always worth wiping around the top of here as well and make sure nothing foreign body's going. Why Ford didn't put this filler here where I can get at it, they put it underneath that bulkhead, which makes it a little bit more inconvenient. But that's how you fill it up. Make sure that you're in between the maximum and the minimum marks. Just pop this back on again. In fact, it tells you there, don't do it when it's hot, do it when it's cold. With the Ford, you'll hear it click when it's locked shut, and it needs to be locked shut. You hear that in a second? There we go. Make sure you get that click and it's locked shut. So that's the coolant level. I use something from the local store. It's radiator coolant. It'll take you down to a temperature of blah blah blah, but just get the right one. This is for a diesel engine. You can get them from petrol engines as well. This particular one is also coloured, so you can see in there what level you've got, and that's your radiator or header tank coolant fluid. The next one you probably never have to check really is this. This is for your brakes. Again, a little reservoir. Hardly anything goes in there, to be absolutely honest. It's just a few mils. You'll see on the top here again some little symbols there that tell you exactly what it is. If you have a look in your owner's manual and you want to top up your fluid levels, you always look in there and it'll tell you what these symbols are, and that'll guide you to this, which is for brakes. Now you'll see on there it says .4, so the fluid you should be putting in there is .4. Now some cars are .3, so make sure that the fluid you're putting in is .3, because there are differences. Mine's .4, so I'll top that up with .4. Again, if you go to your motor factors I'm sure they'll be able to give you the right one depending on what it says in your owner's manual or here on top of the little reservoir. Again, they've got maximum, you can just see on that side, and minimum. Just make sure that you're in between the two. That is possibly, certainly if you've got a new car, might be months or even years before you need to top that one up, but just check it, your 4 fluid levels when you're doing your wash wipe. Just make sure everything's up to date. Last one of all is the oil. For the fourth and final check, we're going to check the oil. Now, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of terminology, advanced, fully synthetic, part synthetic, oh my word. But just look for these numbers. On this particular car, it's a 0W30. Now, don't worry about what that means. What it does do is when you go into your motor factors, Halfords, wherever, all you need to do is look for an oil with those numbers on. Have a look in your owner's manual, or have a word with the people you bought the car from if you're unsure of what oil to put in. It's very important that you get the right oil in a car. This particular one, it needs 0W30. As I say, don't worry about what that means. Just make sure you get the right numbers, and it's very simple. When you go in your motor factors, you'll see all the different numbers for the different oils, but get the right one for your car. Other thing to remember is modern engines require very little oil, so if you find that the oil is a little bit low, don't go glugging in, you know, a 1 litre can like that, because you'll overfill it, and overfilling an oil reservoir or a sump on a car can be quite damaging to the vehicle, so we don't want to overfill it. It's much easier to do it nice and slowly, bit at a time, come back and check, bit at a time, come back to. Much easier to do that than to get engine oil out of an engine that you've overfilled. The first thing you've got to do is identify the dipstick. On this particular car, you can see that little yellow thing there. If I get this out, I don't know whether you can see on there, there's a little oil symbol. But again, consult your owner's manual and it'll tell you exactly where the dipstick is. You want to withdraw the dipstick. Make sure that you get the oil, all the old oil off it. And as you can probably see, there's a minimum and a maximum level there, minimum and a maximum. You want to dip the tank, or dip the sump, all the way in, all the way out. And you can probably see from that, my oil level is about 3/4 of the way up, so I don't need to fill up my oil this particular time. But if you've got an older car, or you're in the middle of a hot spell, it's worth checking that regularly. Top here, again the little oil symbol, just screw that off, make sure there's no debris around it before you do it. Top up with the required oil, a little bit at a time, maybe half a cup at a time. Go away, let it drain down through the engine, come and dip it again with your dipstick. Just make sure that you've not overfilled the engine, that's particularly important. So I just thought I'd share that. I know some people do get a little bit concerned about putting the right fluids in the right areas. Well, it's fairly straightforward. That's the 4 fluid check: wash wipe, coolant level, oil, brakes. The 4 fluid checks. This is a Ford C-Max or Ford Focus C-Max 1.5 turbo diesel, but the same rules apply really whatever kind of vehicle you've got. Hope that's been of some use. If it has, please like and subscribe. It's nice to see the support for the channel. I don't just do mechanical things. I do life on the farmstead out here in Abruzzo. We do tours and walks around and days out on the scooter and lots of other different things. Bear the Abruzzese and the animals and the dogs. So please join us on our journey as expats living out here. We've also got a Facebook page, that's @VarioStick. If you've got any questions about this article or anything else, please feel free to leave a comment or subscribe to the channel. So from my 1.5 turbo diesel, this is VarioStick saying ciao ciao for now.